LinkedIn presents.
Happy Friday. I'm Michael Kovnat, and this is the Next Big Idea Daily, quick life lessons from the best new nonfiction. So tell me what you want, what you really, really want. And are you sure it's really what you want? Or is it what your parents want, or your spouse, or your boss? It turns out that what we pursue in life has as much to do with the people around us as it does with our own innate desires. This insight comes to us from Luke Burgess, an entrepreneur and writer who's taken a deep dive into the work of René Girard, a French thinker whose ideas about desire have enormous explanatory power in the social sciences. Luke joins us to share some big ideas from his book, Wanting, The Power of Mimetic Desire in Everyday Life, right after this quick break.
From LinkedIn News, I'm Leah Smart, host of Everyday Better, an award-winning podcast dedicated to personal development. Join me every week for captivating stories and research to find more fulfillment in your work and personal life. Listen to Everyday Better on the LinkedIn Podcast Network, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
From LinkedIn News, I'm Jessie Hempel, host of the Hello Monday podcast. Start your week with the Hello Monday podcast. We'll navigate career pivots. We'll learn where happiness fits in. Listen to Hello Monday with me, Jessie Hempel, on the LinkedIn Podcast Network or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hi, I'm Luke Burgess, author of the book Wanting and an entrepreneur and teacher by day. I'm going to share with you 5 of the big insights from my book, things I learned from studying the great French thinker René Girard, who's been called the Darwin of the social sciences. Girard was a genius, but of a different kind. He was extremely smart, but lots of people are. What made Girard stand out is his extraordinary range. He studied history, philosophy, sociology, the hard sciences, anthropology, literature, and more. And he had an incredible perception into human nature. He was like Einstein meets Brené Brown. He saw a hidden psychological force, every bit as pervasive as gravity, at the heart of human relations. And he noticed how things like vulnerability, shame, envy, empathy, and love were all partly shaped by it. His fundamental insight was into the nature of human desire, why we want the things that we want. It's the kind of thing where, once you see it, you can't unsee it. You'll see it all around you. You might even see it in yourself. Mimetic desire. Girard's primary discovery is that we don't generate our desires out of nothing. They're not even entirely ours. They're not the product of my autonomous imperial self. Rather, our desires are generated and shaped in and through relationships. Other people are models of desire for us. We adopt their desires. We graft onto them, and we enter into an intricate dance with them. Just to be clear, we don't need models of desire for basic needs. If I'm dying of thirst in the desert, I don't need anyone to tell me that I want water. I have biological instincts for that. But when it comes to our more abstract desires, and the majority of our desires are, if you think about it, we need models. In place of instincts, we have to take our cues from other people that make things more or less desirable. And this all happens subconsciously. Imagine if you turn a handful of toddlers loose in a room full of toys. There's more than enough toys for everybody. Now, if one of them picks up a bright, shiny fire truck, now who knows why, maybe just because she likes red or because one of her parents is a firefighter. And if she shows enough fascination with it, at least one of the other children will almost always start to want the same toy. It's like the first child imbues it with a special power, like magic. It becomes special because the first child wanted it. And if a second and a third child show enough attraction to it, the fourth and the fifth will find it totally irresistible. Before you know it, they're all fighting to spend time with the same toy. Remember, just a minute ago, they didn't seem to care about it at all. This is the mimetic nature of desire. We catch desires by contagion because we imitate the desires of other people, because we think they have something that we don't. some quality of being that we want to have. By the way, the word mimetic just comes from the Greek word, which means to imitate. So we're imitating these people's desires, not their actions. That's why it doesn't matter what thing they want. They can change the thing, and we change our thing right along with them, because it's their desires that are important to us. It's their desires that we're imitating. Now, because we live in a very individualistic age, we're often blinded to just how mimetic we are. We don't like to think of ourselves that way. So most of our models are hidden from us. They're too close for us to see. Now, the great work of René Girard was unmasking these hidden models. In his sweeping exploration of history, he showed how the force of mimetic desire has been responsible for the very formation of culture, the rise and fall of civilizations. It explains volatility in the stock market, the speed at which accusations pile on, even the way we shape our identity. Rivalry permeates our culture. Girard realized that rivalry is at the heart of human relations at a deep level. That's because mimetic desire has a cascade effect. It causes people to want what other people want, which causes them to compete with those people for the same things. In other words, we don't fight because we're different. We fight fundamentally because we want the same things. Whether that thing is power or status or respect, or simple things like job positions, we wouldn't have enemies if, at some deep level, they didn't want the same thing that we want, and if we didn't view them as threats to our own desires. This kind of rivalry is usually so subtle that we don't realize it's going on or how it affects us. Simple example, students enter colleges, and when they start, they state hundreds or thousands of different kinds of jobs that they're interested in pursuing, if you ask. But something interesting happens. By the time they graduate, they end up converging, usually on the same handful of industries, maybe even the same handful of companies. The desirability of certain jobs or lifestyles is powerfully shaped by what their peers want, by mimetic desire. But rivalry goes far deeper than that. Girard saw that we're drawn to compete with other people for things because we're almost skeptical of anything that's easy to acquire. We're attracted to things that are hard. We're attracted to competition. Isn't that interesting? Mimetic desire makes us fascinated with what other people want, to the point where we can even begin acting in ways that are not in our self-interest. It's like we need other people to want something in order for our desire to be strong. If we don't have strong models for something, our desire for it tends to wane a little bit. We're energized by what our rivals, by what our models want. Think about this. If one political party really wants to pass a bill or gain some seat of power, it suddenly inflames the desire of the other party to stop them or to seize it themselves, even if there's some more important thing they should be doing. Our models, who double as our rivals, shape our goals and the things that we pursue in powerful ways. Look around. You'll see rivalries all over. The most pervasive ones, though, are usually hidden. Girard's work uncovered the dynamics of this hidden rivalry in human relationships and in societies. The scapegoat mechanism. Mimetic desire goes through cycles of chaos and order in society. When the mimetic rivalry between people continues to spread through contagion, it creates chaos. When everyone is imitating and reacting to everyone else, it starts to become hard to tell who the real models even are, who's imitating who. Everyone is like a model to everyone else. Everyone is a rival. Girard calls this a mimetic crisis. And since we become more like that which we imitate, this crisis makes everyone more alike, at least in terms of what they want, not necessarily in terms of their superficial differences, their speech, their ideologies, but at the level of desire. They become more of the same. This situation turns into a war of all against all. The group needs to find someone different, an outsider who can fix this crisis of sameness and reestablish difference. Groups in crisis are on high alert for anyone who's a deviant, who doesn't seem part of the mimetic crisis, or even someone who's chosen randomly just because they happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. Anyone to blame their crisis on. That person stands out to them as someone who is other, someone who needs to be purged from their midst. They project all of their problems and anxiety onto this person, and they banish or expel them. The person becomes a scapegoat. The word scapegoat comes from a religious rite in ancient Israel. Every year in Jerusalem, at Yom Kippur, the high priest would pray over a kid goat and symbolically transfer all the sins of the people onto the goat. Then the community would collectively drive that goat out into the wilderness, probably to die. And as the goat was driven out, so were their sins. Now, in taking this collective action, the people were able to unite for a change and transfer all of their anxiety, all of the blame onto the animal. The goat bore the consequences of the crisis. This allowed them to achieve some level of catharsis and peace from the rite. Now, the word for that goat that was driven out into the wilderness eventually came into the English language centuries later as scapegoat. It was the goat that escaped. Girard found that this process of transferring blame onto someone or something or some group who pays the price for a community's collective problems is deeply present throughout human history. It is our go-to solution for these mimetic crises. It's present strongly even today. It just manifests itself differently in our world. We're usually not driving out or expelling literal goats, but our thirst for purity remains. It's the cause of some of our most persistent conflicts. These cycles of desire that cause chaos and which are resolved through scapegoats, which bring order, are important to see for what they are if we're to have any hope of moving beyond them. Positive cycles of mimetic desire. The default cycle of mimetic desire leads people to want what other people have and eventually leads to rivalry and conflict. But desires can be mimetic in tremendously positive ways. Heroism is mimetic. We saw it on 9/11. When a firefighter runs into a burning building, it becomes a little easier for the second and the third to go into. And we're inspired by people who take stands for what they believe in, who refuse to give in. We're inspired by people who demonstrate extreme empathy or vulnerability. Now that too is mimetic in a positive way. When we see it in others, it makes us want to be a little bit more like that. We can start a positive cycle of desire for ourselves, even in simple things. Take fitness. It's like turning a giant flywheel. We build momentum as we go. One turn of a fitness flywheel might work like this. I commit to showing up for my workouts with my highly disciplined friend because he holds me accountable if I don't. And that makes me want to eat well so that I have enough energy for the workouts, which makes me want to wake up earlier so that I have enough time to get a good breakfast before we meet, which makes me want to go to bed earlier at the end of the day because I'm actually tired. And it leads to me becoming more disciplined, a little bit more like my friend. And through mimesis, maybe this newfound desire even spreads to somebody else in my family. That's positive mimesis. So when Gandhi said, "Be the change you want to see in the world," there was something deeply mimetic about this point. It's not just that we affect change for ourselves. It's that we inevitably move someone else along with us. It's the physics of social change. Mimetic desire is what makes us human. It's what opens us up to our fellow human beings in the world around us and allows us to enter into deep relationships. Love itself is mimetic. When we love others, they're more likely to reciprocate that love. Now, the future of our world and our planet depends on whether or not we start positive cycles of desire. The destructive cycles are just not sustainable, but there's a positive cycle predicated on abundance, and we can begin building these cycles into our lives. Thick desires. Thin desires are ephemeral, fleeting, highly mimetic. They're like leaves that are easily blown away in the wind. They come and go because we adopt them from other people. They're throwaway desires. We throw them away as soon as we fulfill them because they don't have anything real to offer us. Thick desires are the kinds of desires that endure. They form a core part of who we are. They're like the layers of solid rock that we build up over the course of our lives. the rock representing the desires that we'll be able to cultivate and deepen until the day we die. Many of us go through life not having even heard or experienced those thick desires, and they need to be excavated. In Zora Neale Hurston's great novel, Their Eyes Were Watching God, the main character, Janie Crawford, an African-American woman in her 40s, goes through 3 husbands during the course of the novel. She struggles conforming to gender roles and models of authority and other things before ultimately relinquishing her desire and her emotional attachments to people and things that are preventing her from finding her own voice. We might say that her ideas about true love were constructed mimetically and shot through with thin desires to please people or to conform to certain norms. Crawford's thick desires were obscured in that effort, but she ultimately found and took hold of them. This image of thick desires is not one that Girard used, but comes from my effort to draw important lessons from him that we can apply to our own lives. What Girard imparted to the world was an emphasis on the fundamental workings of human desire that lie at the root of all politics, all business, all romance, all culture. And every leader, too, should understand them. There's no more powerful motivator than kindling a desire for something deep inside a human heart. The writer Antoine de Saint-Exupéry explained the importance of leading by and developing thick desires. He wrote, "If you want to build a ship, don't drum up people to gather wood, divide the work, and give orders. Instead, teach them to yearn for the vast and endless sea."
Thank you, Luke. Okay, listeners, you can get yourself a copy of Wanting wherever you get your books. And if you got something out of today's show, please leave us a 5-star rating and a glowing review to help others find it. That does it for us this week. These episodes were written by me, Michael Kovnat, and edited by Caleb Bissinger. The next Big Idea Daily is part of the LinkedIn Podcast Network. We'll see you Monday.